I've seen that since university.
Fun, insightful interviews from a wide spectrum McKnight tonight. McKnight tonight. Here comes McKnight tonight.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to McKnight Tonight for this Monday, the 18th of August, 2025. Gee, hasn't a lot happened since our last episode on Thursday? Did you see this over the weekend? A light plane came crashing down on the Mona Vale golf course. Look, everyone was okay, amazingly. But apparently, I've been checking into this, and apparently the pilot was told by his passenger the McKnight Tonight mugs were for sale. And because he had no phone signal, he landed straight away so that he could get phone signal, get online and order one. You can't blame him for that. We all want one of these. And if you want one of yours, there's a link on our YouTube page at youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. Just go to the post section. So when you go to the YouTube page, click posts and you'll see a link to get your McKnight Tonight cup. I am shameless, Amanda. Absolutely shameless. Someone will have a go at me for being in bad taste, I'm sure. But that's me. McKnight leaves a bad taste in your mouth. All right, coming up tonight, could you forgive the man who killed your children? Now, the extraordinary moment, you have to see this. A father confronted the Oatlands driver who wiped out 3 of his kids. Then the family home under attack. Economists and welfare groups want Canberra to start taxing Australians on their most valuable asset. In Rob's rant, Melbourne's mayor floats the idea of a law dictating how we use footpaths. And I agree with him. And to finish, an awkward moment on the football field when a married manager tries very, very hard not to make eye contact with the reporter. Okay, pour yourself a drink, settle in, because McKnight Tonight starts now. Let's get into our hot topics. And could you forgive someone if they killed your kids while drunk and high? Well, parents Denny and Leila Abdallah, they did just that last night on Channel 7 Spotlight. Denny came face to face with Samuel Davidson, who has been sentenced to 20 years jail for the deaths of his 3 children.
What did Danny's forgiveness mean to you, Samuel?
It meant that I've got a second chance at life here.
What do you ask of Danny now, sitting beside him?
Look, he's given me everything, to be honest. He's forgiven me. That's massive. I can't really ask for more than that. So anything else is just a bonus. Honestly, I look at him like a godfather. Like, I just want to be everything like him, and I got a lot to learn from him.
Have you apologised?
I have, and I'll do it again. Danny, I'm really sorry to you and your whole family for what I've done, and all your friends. And I'm also sorry to all the emergency services that turned up to that day and had to deal with what they dealt with. And I'm sorry to everyone, even the neighbours that were on the scene. Everyone that I've affected, I apologise. I'm deeply sorry, and I regret it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I've forgiven you already.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Very powerful piece of television. I don't know that I could do it. I have 3 kids of my own. And the idea that I could sit with the person who killed them, and we're not talking a murder situation here. The guy was high, he was drunk, and he was driving erratically and mowed down 3 children. And the father and mother, amazingly, have forgiven him. Danny and Leila Abdallah. And that was the father sitting with him, saying, I forgive you. I just don't know that I could do it. It speaks volumes, and this will do more to rehabilitate that man than any jail sentence will. Coming face to face with the father of the people you killed and having that forgiveness, that's got to be powerful. And it seems to be working. He seems to be turning his life around. He seems to be doing the right things in jail. But I've got to say, Danny, you're a better man than me. Because I can totally see just wanting revenge. It would be easier, wouldn't it, if this guy was just an arsehole who was happy, didn't care about the parents. but he seems genuinely sorry. What do you reckon, Amanda? Could you ever forgive them? No. Amanda says no. Well, it was an amazing piece of television, and Spotlight beat 60 Minutes last night, and you can see why. What do you think? Could you ever forgive someone who killed your kids, even if it was an accident? It was an accident, but he was culpable because he made the decision to take drugs, drink excessively, and get behind the wheel. Personally, I think it's unforgivable. Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see what you guys say when we get to our feedback a little later in the show, because I'm still dumbfounded by that story. Well done, Spotlight. All right, let's move on. And owning a home is meant to bring financial safety, but here comes another cash grab. Economists and welfare groups are calling for the family home to be dragged into the tax net. They say Australia's capital gains tax exemption on your main residence is costing the budget over $50 billion a year and fueling inequality. Now, these same economists are calling for the family home to be included in asset tests when deciding eligibility for the age pension too. And this is where it gets outrageous. It feels to me every time Australians are getting ahead, the government looks for new ways to drag them back down. But do they cut their own travel perks, their own travel rorts, their own perks in general, or their endless allowances? No, they come for your family home. It's the one thing people sacrifice for, pay off over decades, and hopefully pass down to their kids. Suddenly it's treated like a welfare rort? This isn't equity, it's daylight robbery dressed up in policy. It honestly feels to me, and it's funny, Amanda always said to me about tax, and I'm sorry to drag you into this again, but she always said, they're forcing us to save for super, but they're going to come for it. They're going to find a way to take away our tax, our super. And I think she's right. They're always looking at ways of taking a bit more from us. You know, today a speaker at the National Press Club pitched making the corporate tax rate 20% down from 30%. And where do you think that 10% shortfall will come from? You and I. High-income Australians are already charged, 49% of their wage? Which you might sound, well, if you're a high earner, fair enough. But what does it take to be a high earner these days? 150,000? You know, once upon a time, you'd hear of a high earner, or you'd hear 150,000, and that seemed like they were almost millionaires. Not these days, not with the cost of living. But what I don't get is why we keep allowing companies to take money out of Australia. How many people, I've seen lots of stories this tax year where people are going, I usually get a tax return, but now I'm having to pay back to the ATO because they're coming down harder on certain claims. So what they're doing is they're applying the pressure on ordinary Australians, while corporations and really high income, the actual millionaires, pay nothing or very little tax. I understand what Kerry Packer said when he talked about tax minimisation, but it gets to a point where it's ridiculous. When companies can come into this country and pay less than 10% tax, I gave you an example with streaming services last week and how they funnel it back into countries where there's very little tax. They're paying a smaller tax rate than people on low incomes. It's just not right. Stop coming down and forcing the average worker to pay for the shortfalls. It's about time we hit the high end of town. Yes, that lady was the chair of the Productivity Commission, and we do need productivity, but we can't be applying the screws to ordinary Australians. I'm really, really over it. We need change, but they're looking in all the wrong areas. Okay, now it's time for Rob's rant, and I know that there were some of you who wanted to see Travis's version of the Rob's rant sting. So here it is.
Rob's rant.
How good is that? Thank you, Travis. It really kicked me into gear of getting a Rob's rant sting made up. But, Amanda, it's really good. Can we have another look, please?
Rob's rant.
Why do I look so angry? All right, let's get into Rob's rant because the Lord Mayor of Melbourne has proposed a keep left law for walking on footpaths. In an opinion piece for The Age, Nick Rees says pedestrian etiquette in Melbourne has reached new lows. Victoria's road safety road rules mandate pedestrians must keep to the left when walking on roads without footpaths, but they remain silent about how people should move on actual footpaths. He asks, is it time for a keep left law for pedestrians on footpaths? Well, that opinion piece has led to a wave of criticism and backlash over the city's slide towards authoritarianism. Oh no, we're trying to help people. I've got to say, I am on his side. I am so sick of the selfishness of people on footpaths. It's not hard to stay to the left so that we can all have a fair and equitable go on the footpath, but we also need a law against people who walk as groups because they will take up the footpath and you're there walking along to the left and then none of them are moving out of the way. It's like they expect you to go on the road or on the grass or go around them. And I'm now to the point where I just stop and stand there. I haven't said this, but I've been on the verge of saying, what would you like me to do? Because you're taking up the whole area. But the thing is, I'd be seen as the psychopath. That's the thing that gets me. They're the ones being rude and taking up the whole path because they're all having a chat. I'm a loner. I shouldn't have to give up the footpath because there's a group of them. Does my head in the selfishness of people. Really does. I'm for this law. Keep left. And you also know when there's a foreigner walking in this country because they'll go on the other side and you're like, we're in Australia, over, you know. But it's not hard, is it? Keep left, unless overtaking, and stick to the footpath. Now, why is this copping such criticism? Now, I know historically Melbourne has been through a lot with COVID lockdowns and everything like that, but this just makes sense to me. It just makes sense. When you're on a footpath, like driving, keep left. If there's a group of you, get out of the way. Get out of the way. When we dropped my daughter off at her prom, Jasmine off at her prom a year or so ago, there was a bus full of people all crowded on the footpath. So I walked around the bus and the footpath, and the security guard had to go at me saying, stay on the footpath. And I went, how am I meant to get through, mate? How am I meant to get through? And that's the thing that gets me. Other people do the wrong thing, which I react to, and I am the one that gets in trouble. Does my head in. Almost knocked my head off with my own glasses then, I'm that upset. Anyway, that's Rob's rant. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comments section of this video, especially via YouTube. It's where we monetize this video, so it does help us if you're watching through there. But it is almost time to get to your feedback right after we have a random live shot of the day.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And tonight's random live shot of the day, we're off to Coney Island in New York. The famous boardwalk, Luna Park rides, and of course, the Atlantic rolling in. It's the kind of place where the hot dogs are as iconic as the roller coasters. It's set to be a cloudy day today as they wake up on the other side of the world with a high of 23 degrees after an overnight low of 18. And it is 7:14 in the morning there. I saw it a little bit earlier and the lights were on and it looked beautiful as the sun was coming up. A beautiful part of the world. I love the fact that New York's just waking up as we're getting ready to go to bed, and you're going to bed with McKnight. Oh, you'll be right. All right, let's take a look at some of the feedback coming into McKnight tonight. Travis says, Okay, this is on the father who forgave the killer of his children. And Travis says, quite rightly, that he's a much stronger man than me. I couldn't forgive him. I agree with that, Travis. It's quite something. Own Your Own Crazy says, I hope never to be in a situation where I would need to consider forgiveness for someone who killed people I love. There are far less horrible things that have happened to me that I can't forgive. Justine says, the forgiveness wasn't for the driver. The forgiveness was for the family to be able to live without being angry for life. Ultimately giving them an opportunity to live. There is no excuse for what happened to those poor children. I personally couldn't do it, but wow, how powerful that they could. Yeah, I completely agree, Justine. Thank you for your feedback. Jeanette says, don't forget Ken Masley did the same when his son Michael was killed at the pizza. That robbery went wrong. He forgave him and created Enough is Enough. He also met him outside of the jail. Jeanette, I remember that. 9 News had that exclusive. I remember the pictures. I remember making a promo, and it was such a powerful moment. So powerful. Own Your Own Crazy says, Dylan says, okay, this is on the housing story. Don't they get enough from me in income tax, GST, stamp duty, land tax, council rates, emergency services levy, and many, many more? So true, Dylan. Own Your Crazy says, meanwhile, how rich are our billionaires getting? Yes. Our faceless corporations getting? Yes. All this generational wealth, and the little Aussie battler suffers. Always the way. Travis says, nobody gives a stuff about the average worker nowadays. Moving on to Rob's rant, and we got that great little sting from Travis. But look what Travis has declared. See, I told you it wasn't that great. Well, our YouTube community, which is a great community, and if you go to the YouTube page, honestly, we have such a great community there. And everybody, I notice you all, they're there talking an hour before the show goes live. They're all there messaging each other. And they all said, we want to see Travis's sting. Well, you did. You got to see it tonight. But we've got this one from Dylan, who says, great job, Travis. It looks awesome. Jeanette says, well done, Travis. So you're getting the love, Travis. It was nice. And as I said, it prompted me into action. All right. Dylan says, we're moving on to the actual topic of Rob's rant regarding footpaths and the rules and walking on the left from the Mayor of Melbourne. Dylan says, that only works if the footpath is wide enough or safe enough. Most of the footpaths near me are cracked, grinded down to the last millimetre, or non-existent. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, Dylan. I have major problems with that. And then they'll still walk all over it, and the groups of people do my head in. Anyway, Lynn McKnight, hello, Mum. She says, what about the ones who stop to talk to people coming the other way and block the path? Yeah, and they pay no attention to who's coming. Own Your Crazy. How do we police footpath usage? Radar traps, pavement cameras. It is impossible to police bad manners. Yeah, well, as Radio Notes says, always say, what side do you drive? Philip says, consider yourself lucky an electric scooter doesn't run you over. I love going to Melbourne with the electric scooters, I've got to say, Philip. Absolutely love it. A few other comments here saying that they hate people with the, shopping centres are the worst. I think Travis said that. Here we go. Own Your Crazy also says, if we're policing footpaths, why not crack down on shopping aisles too? And in response to where did we go today? Well, now you know. We went to Coney Island in New York. All right. Hope you're having fun. We are watching McKnight tonight. There is still plenty ahead. Keep the feedback coming. I love seeing it pop up. And I love you guys, the way you talk to each other and support each other. It's fantastic. Now, you want to know what I've been working on for a while? We'll get to that in just a sec, because you are watching McKnight Tonight.
It's a different take
Oh my God, she's a Republican. She must be racist.
on the news of the day.
A kid should have the right to punch back against a bully without consequences.
Join Rob McKnight for the home internet streaming show that's very different to the rest.
My BS detector is going through the roof.
streaming live Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m.
I am so pumped for McKnight tonight.
Subscribe now at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
Well, an old favourite is returning to our screens. Those who loved Beauty and the Beast are bound to love a new version of the show, which launched today. Beauty and the Beasts is a new twist on the old format, with a range of beauties and beasts picking up where the late, great Stan Zemanek left off. The woman making it all happen is original beauty, Prue MacSween. Prue, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Thank you, Beastie Rob, one of our favourite beasts. Look, it's interesting. I decided to come up with this because I've been stopped everywhere I go for many, many years from people saying, we loved that show. Why can't someone bring it back? And I thought, well, why can't someone bring it back? I'm going to. And I think in these times where people are so terrified, everything's so PC, people come up to me and say, we love the fact that you say what we're too scared to say. And I think, why are we living this nightmare? It's time to come back with an unfiltered, fun version of strong opinions and outrageous and scandalizing opinions of occasion for people to enjoy. And, it's refreshing, television. It's not television at this stage. It's a podcast.
Well, it should bloody well be television. It's television quality.
I agree. We've got such a strong calibre of talent too, Rob, as you know.
We really do. Now, I am thrilled to be part of this, Prue, but what can we look forward to and who's involved in this new version?
It's interesting that everyone I have approached has wanted to be part of it. People like prosecutor, for goodness sake, Margaret Caneen, she's a barrister now, of course, Joe Hildebrand, Carol, of course, Carlotta was head over heels to be part of it, Craig Bennett, who's hilarious, Anjali Rao, who was one of the Real Housewives of Melbourne and an ex-CNN reporter, Survivor. She's in it. Senator Holly Hughes, or the former senator, Tim Blair, who's that satirist and fabulous Telegraph columnist, Joe Hildebrand, just a whole range of big names, Lucy Zellick, Libby Gore, we go on and on. Jamie Rogers has just agreed, and I believe that even Hazel Phillips, who was one of the very original beauties, is happy to become a booty, and apparently I've been assured she hasn't lost it. So, and Marcella Zemanek, Stan's wife, was so head over heels that we were bringing it back. She's going to join us as well. So people are keen. They know that it's going to be refreshing, exciting opinion. And here we are.
Well, the big difference with this version is that it's not just one beast. It's a range of beasts. Now, look, I am the bus driver, but we've really got to let people know I'm not trying to replace Stan Zemanek here.
Well, it's an impossible feat for anybody. He was just the master of the one-liner. He knew how to rib the women, and particularly in this modern era where you can't have men, putting women down. Stan still had the ability in that time, in the 90s, to be able to, put us in our place, tick us off, but do it in a gentle way where it wasn't demeaning. And so we've got the beasts unleashed. They're very nice beasts. In fact, probably too nice to an extent, Robbie. So we're going to have to teach them to get the claws out a bit, because I think we women give you a very hard time.
Well, you say that, but I've managed to get a few. I was pretty happy with some of the jokes I got in there. I'm still paying for the grandma joke, which people were here against you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. I'll get you back.
One thing that hasn't changed is your fiery attitude. Let's have a look at a clip where you're talking about whether parents should have the birds and the bees talk with their kids. True Prue MacSween style. Prue, I never had the talk with my parents, and I still don't know what I'm doing.
And I look at that. I heard that from your wife, actually. That's my go. I think that parents who don't do it are derelict in their duties. What's wrong with them? It's just about fucking, for Christ's sake. Surely you can tell your children about this.
She said ducking, everyone. She said ducking.
What is that time, though?
You still got it, Prue.
Well, Robbie, I just think I'm a straight shooter, as you know, which of course has got me in a lot of trouble in the past and probably will again in the future. But I can't stand pussyfooters. And I've been really upset about the fact that so many parents are treating their kids like friends and, you know, allowing their kids to just run riot. And I just believe parents need to be parenting again. And really that particular subject gets right up my goat. But I just think it's time to tell it as it is, to be someone who doesn't really worry about tiptoeing over the niceties and the sensitivities of people. I mean, give me a break. Grow up, people.
Yeah, you certainly don't tiptoe around. Why has it taken so long for this show to come back, and why have you had to do it? You're actually funding this yourself. I cannot believe that a television network hasn't jumped in on this. It just beggars belief. Do they really not have an idea of what people want?
I agree. I don't understand it either. It has proven itself from the 60s. So many iterations of this under so many beasts, including, as we know, Stan, but Eric Pearce, Eric Bone, Doug Mulray took over when Stan got sick. So Sue Wagstaff, there were so many iterations of it, and it's always worked because that dynamic of the battle of the sexes and showing, truly that men are from Mars, women from Venus, you just sort of think it's time again. And people love, you look at that tired old view that's being done by all those Sheilas who should be retired in America, and you think, why hasn't someone, and I know people have tried to do that show here, but this dynamic of the modern day battle of the sexes and the fact that we've got so much talent in this country that can be expressing their opinions and interacting with each other, that I just thought it's time to bring it back. And I've put my house, my nuts on the line for this.
You put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. So we'll see. Look, we'll see, but we're hoping that people give us a go. We hope that some sponsors come along and realise, and also networks realise, that this is a show people have loved. It's time for it to be elevated to a mainstream, and we're hoping that the streaming services go wild for it.
Yeah, well, I've got my producer's eye over it, and I love it. I'm trying to remove myself from it. I think it's a great show, and congratulations. Booty and the Beast is available to watch or listen to via your favourite podcast apps. Just search Booty and the Beasts AU or go to bootyandthebeasts.com.au. Prue, good luck. Break a leg. Thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rob.
How good is she? Thank you, Prue. I have loved working with her, so it has just been fantastic. And the video version is now on YouTube. So when you've finished watching McKnight Tonight in a few minutes, go and search for Booty and the Beasts AU. It's on YouTube. I have just uploaded the first episode, so you can watch the first episode and see what's involved. All right, let's get to your feedback before we get to a back-end quickie. What have we got there, Amanda? And we've got Restoration Archive. Imagine if Stan was still alive. Poor bastard would have had a heart attack with all the woke. Dylan, is there a video version of this podcast? There is indeed. In fact, it is made for television, Dylan. So go and watch it, as I said. Jeanette, I listened to the first episode of Beauty and the Beast today as Joe put it up in the podcast post. I hope you enjoyed it, Jeanette. Radio Note says, was not impressed with Prue's use of the T word, but that's her generation. You've got to take Prue for a good and bad, I think, Radio Notes. Philip says, who is old enough to remember Eric Baum, Pat Fineman, Maggie T and Ina Harwood? I remember a lot of those, I have to say. Eric, I don't, if I'm to be honest, Philip. We've got this one from Nicole. Love Prue. She is a straight talker. No mincing words with her. New show sounds great. Travis says started listening to the podcast version, but will prefer to watch the YouTube version when it launches. Well, you can do that tonight, Travis. Own Your Crazy says Joe Hildebrand, Angeli Rao. Where have I heard these names before? Studio 10. Nicole says Stan was and will forever be the beast, but the lineup of new ones sounds awesome. And Nicole, this is an important point. We are not trying to replace Stan or any of the previous beasts. What we are trying to do here is, as I said, I'm the bus driver. I'm not trying to be Stan Zemanek. I am my own person. I have a different sense of humor. And you also couldn't get away with the banter that happened between him and the panelists back in the day. He was very nice. I mean, it was great TV and it was of its time, but there's a lot of stuff you couldn't get away with today. And as we said before, you'd have a heart attack with the woke. So that's why we have more beasts. We share it around. I think, but I've got to say, I love this show, and it's the show I would love even if I wasn't involved with it. When I see the finished episodes, I go, this still makes me laugh. And I listened to the podcast today, and I still had a smile on my face. And usually when you're involved with something from go to woe, you're bored by the time it gets to air. But no, I really loved it. All right, I think we're up to Own Your Crazy. Doug Mulray, remember him? Copulator. Beck. What exactly was Beauty and the Beast? Millennial here. Basically, Beck, it is a show where people write in and the panel answer their questions, and sometimes the topics are very serious, sometimes they're quirky, and sometimes they're downright crazy, but there's usually a lot of laughs and a little bit of banter along the way. If you like McKnight Tonight, I think you'll like it. Philip says, don't forget John Laws was part of it. Own Your Crazy says, Channel 10 have lost their way in terms of maintaining a relationship with the audience. Own Your Crazy says, resurrect a classic and pay tribute to a legend. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate all your feedback tonight. And as I said, I think we've got time for just enough time for a back-end quickie. And this post-match video has gone viral for all the wrong reasons, with a male coach desperately trying to avoid making eye contact with a female reporter. Seriously, he avoids looking at her as though he owes her money. Take a look.
Mister, I think that this victory is special for you in some moments. What did you like the most about team's performance in this game?
Bu maç için tabii ki mükemmel kazanmak önemli ama hiçbir şey bitmedi. Biten hiçbir şey yok. Pozitifleri yanımıza alacağız. Cebimize koyacağız. Topa sahip olmak, reaksiyon, birçok şey. Ama bu kadar basit 2 gol yememeliyiz. Bunları kendi aramızda konuşacağız. Daha iyi birebir oynamalıyız. Kornerde, duran topta, kenarlarda. Bunların hepsini konuşacağız kendi aramızda ama oyuncularım genç ve büyük potansiyelleri var. Bugün bu stat'tan başları dik çıktılar. O yüzden onlarla gurur duyuyorum. Ama iş bitmedi. Devam.
Was Shakhtar's attack at the highest level today?
Yani en üst seviyede olmanız için bu kadar pozisyona girdiğinizde daha fazla atmalısınız. Futbolda en üst seviye diye bir şey yok. Her gün kendinizi daha fazla geliştirmelisiniz.
That's hilarious.
O yüzden,
thank you, Amanda.
Ama
that is so funny. Hey, thanks for a great night on McKnight Tonight. Really appreciate your feedback, your comments, and taking the journey. Tomorrow night, it is Media McKnight. Don't forget, though, it streams at 9 o'clock, but those who are members of the YouTube page get early access, and that can go up 5, 6, 7 o'clock. So you will get the Media McKnight hours before everyone else, and it also helps show your support for what we're doing here. Thank you very much for your time, your efforts, and everything else. We will be back tomorrow at 9 with Media McKnight, then Wednesday with McKnight Tonight. I hope you can join me then, because until then, it's good night from McKnight. See you soon.
Tonight, McKnight Tonight, McKnight Tonight. It's good.